to the courage to be courageous.
This is Dan Boland, and I'm the host of a podcast called A Courage to Be Courageous, where people come from all over the world to talk about the fear they've had and the courage that they've used to get through it. We also support several organizations. Among them, as many of you know, we've done podcasts with the Trevor Project, the Outright International that's fighting for gay rights, and the SAGE Organization for Seniors. But there's another guest I'm having today, which is another organization that I support and are part of my beneficiary, and that is the Ali Forney Center. And we're going to have a great guest today who will tell us a little bit about that and how we can donate to this cause. And I think after you've heard this podcast, I believe you'll want to do just that. So Zach, it's nice having you on our podcast today. Tell us a little bit about Ali Forney Center, how you got involved, and also what the center is all about.
Sure. Thank you, Dan. And thank you for having me and for talking about our work and obviously including us in your plan giving. It's really, really inspiring. That really long, silly title essentially means that I oversee all of our fundraising and communications for the agency. So Ali Forney was a real person. He was a Black kid living in New York who at the age of 13 was kicked out of his family. His mother is quoted as saying he was too gay, and then kind of bounced around from foster family to foster family, where it was so abusive for a queer Black kid that he decided it was safer to be on the streets rather than in the institutions that were designed to protect him.
Well, tell us a little bit more about his story and how it came to an end.
Yeah, Ali's like this really incredibly inspiring figure where years later, seeing the light and the incredible impact that his memory has had is really pretty inspiring. Ali, while living on the streets, was also like that house mother, that friend who was figuring out like where everybody should be going and what they needed. He would famously carry a book bag full of condoms for his peers who were engaging in sex work to make sure that like while they needed to make sure they had the money in their pockets, they still were able to protect themselves. So even when he was down on his luck, he was worried about the well-being of his peers. This is at a time where there's really no organization that was supporting homeless queer kids. They were quite literally being killed in the streets. And pretty tragically, a handful of Ali's closest friends and peers were murdered one after another, where he was going to the precinct demanding that somebody care about these youth and somebody provides justice. And he was essentially laughed out of the precincts. And then in 1997, he was tragically shot and left for dead in Harlem, which was the last straw for our founder, Carl Siciliano, was a former monk who couldn't kind of grapple with his own sexual identity and the monkship. So he left that life to then live amongst the homeless, where he then met Ali Forney at a shelter that wasn't queer, but was more queer friendly. That kind of launched this all. It started in 2002 as just essentially an answer to that need. It was going to be safety for these youth when they're most at risk between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m., where it was just 6 beds in the basement of a church. And then over these almost 25 years, it's grown into this incredible organization with wraparound services that to this day provide services to 2,200 youth every year.
Oh, amazing.
Both housing, we provide career and life skills. There's doctor's offices, there's a classroom, whatever these young people need. Once they reach our doors, we have a 24-hour, 7 days a week drop-in space. They're able to provide that support. And then because we are the largest organization doing this work, we also do a ton of model replication work across the country and around the world.
What a tragedy. And yet from that death, there was victory. Of course, nobody deserves to die. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying, his death spurred others on to do something that these kids were not getting. So they carried on, I think, his legacy in a way to be able to do that. And you've grown tremendously, as you were talking about there as well. So tell us a little bit about the growth more, how you've expanded, where you would like to go, and how growth is important to Ali Forney.
It really is very inspiring to think that like we all have that potential to dedicate ourselves to have an impact. Dealing with the issue of young people who are forced to the streets because of homophobia and transphobia is heartbreaking. And it's possible to look at that issue and like just break your heart. I choose to look at the fact that I get to work with heroes who are quite literally dedicating their lives to make sure that those young people who have faced that hatred and hardship have the support that they deserve to live a life of their choosing.
And I think it's interesting because we've made some progress in that, but we still today, even in this country, have parents that are outcasting their sons and daughters because they're gay, and some of them have become homeless. This has not gone away. It's gotten better, and it's not gotten to where it needs to be. And that's why I appreciate what Al Forney is doing as well, too. So now you've expanded. You started the church, as you mentioned. Go back and give us some more input on that and how expansive are you doing today, and how much you're involved in the community of the LGBTQ youth.
And the organization grew really organically. It wasn't as if like there was one day that we were like deciding what the programs that we're going to do our 15-year strategy of how we were going to respond. It started off as responding to what the greatest needs are of the young people who are coming to us. It's a youth-led organization, meaning that the young people have advisory boards where they're able to voice their opinions about what their needs are. As a gay man, I've been very privileged that I thankfully have never had to experience homelessness of being who I am. So I don't know what it's like to be homeless. I don't know what it's like to be rejected from my family. So I shouldn't be in a position to dictate to these young people what they need. It should come from them to determine how they want to live their lives. Like at first it was really just like this emergency housing program, and then the those offerings kind of grew until we have a really robust offerings now. So actually the building that I'm in right now is our 24-hour drop-in space, meaning it doesn't matter what the weather is. If it's a holiday, if there's a pandemic, our doors do not close. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, our doors are open, and we're actually located in between Port Authority and Penn Station. So wherever the person is coming from in the tri-state area across the country, they're able to get to us quite easily. There's public transport. And then we have 4 meals offered a day. As I mentioned, there's a doctor's office. There's like a whole array of services, both to meet the needs of the young people and also as an incentive. If you're dealing with where your next meal is coming from or what the services that you need, you may not like pause to figure out exactly what your next steps are going to be in your case management. This way, we're able to offer doing the laundry or providing a shower as a way to bring young people in to understand what are our services that we have available to us. In addition, often young people will come to the drop-in space for a few weeks before they're ready to go into our housing program. The first step out of homelessness is often our emergency housing program. This is really just 6 months where we cook 3 meals a day for our young people. They have their own bed, they're safe. The sole focus of this program is for them to stabilize. There's a lot of trauma that happens when they're rejected from their families, let alone having to fight for their lives on the streets. So really the goal of this program is like, you are safe, you can exhale, just catch your breath. Once they're ready to really do the heavy lifting of figuring out what they want to be when they grow up, they move into our transitional housing program, which is a 2-year program where they really learn those life skills of how to live an independent life. So we know we have them for 2 years, and then we're able to map out for them, what do you want your life to be? There's a higher barrier of entry to be in the program. They have to be working, they have to be in school if they're of age, or like they just have to be making sure that they're learning those skills. So they have to pay rent to the agency. They have to budget for themselves. They have roommates. They have to learn how to navigate that, how to go food shopping for themselves. We're there to catch them when they fall, but like they're starting to live those independent lives. And we know we have them for 2 years. So we're able to say, let us help you figure out how to write your resume or get you an internship or work with some of our corporate partners or our supporters to figure out we can give you a leg up and get you a food handler certification, or you can be a home health aide, or we have some capabilities in-house to provide you with those certifications. So you could figure out at least a path of stability to get you out of homelessness. Now, the last thing I'll say, and then I promise I'll pause, is when I said the young people are paying rent to the agency, it's not really rent. Like it's not New York City rent. Essentially, what they're doing is learning how to save. So they have to save X percentage of their salary each month so that when they graduate out into independent living, they have a little bit of a nest egg already saved up that they're able to then launch their independent life.
Wow, what a fascinating program, and I'm so proud of what Ali Forney Center is doing. A thought went across my mind, Zach, is this is what Ali Forney wanted to do. He wanted to have a safe place where people could come.
Yes.
And now he has that through
Yes.
his foundation. Now, I believe now you have 13 sites right now.
Exactly.
Okay, tell us about those.
And they're all like small home-like environments. Our organization does not believe in like a warehouse shelter where it's bunk bed after bunk bed after bunk bed. We really try to make sure these young people know that we are there to support them and that we're able to give them that individualized care. So it's often a 3 or 4 bedroom apartment where they're able to live with their peers. They're staffed by AFC staff 24 hours a day, by mental health professionals, by case managers, but it is a place for them to get on their feet and figure out what they want to do with their lives. Of these 13 housing sites, B. Arthur, the actress, left a bunch of money to the Ali Forney Center in her will, which enabled us to buy a townhouse in the East Village to house 20 young people. And actually, this year, we purchased our second property, which is a townhouse in Harlem, which will provide home for 20 trans youth in the community as well.
Wow, you're doing so much good work right now. Now, I believe when you and I were talking, Zach, and doing the prelude on this, you said 50% of your work is in New York City, 50% or maybe 40%, maybe 40%
Yes.
is in other parts of the United States,
Exactly.
and then 10% is abroad. Tell us how that works.
Yeah, and it's really heartbreaking that, first of all, that if we serve 2,200 young people a year, that there are 1,100 kids in the New York area who are being rejected from their families for being LGBTQ. It's hard to believe that in this like liberal bastion of acceptance and queer people of New York, still there's that much homophobia and transphobia. And what's even worse is that the additional 1,100 kids have to not only deal with the heartbreak of family rejection, but then need to cross the country to try to find safety. The rates of survival sex for young people to have to sell their bodies for food or money or shelter are staggering. So our goal is to try to provide these services within their local communities. Perhaps they have an uncle who can invite them to meals, or they have friends, or they have don't have to be on the road to try to get to New York to try to find safety, which is what launched our model replication work. So that's why we partner with activists and smaller groups around the country who are looking to try to onboard beds and support for homeless queer kids, that they don't have to start at ground one. We can share with them our model, our fundraising, our strategies, so they're able to try to kind of accelerate their progress to support these kids where they are.
You got 13 sites. Are they in different states? Can you give us an example of some of the states you're helping the LGBTQ youth?
Yeah, all of our housing sites are in the 5 boroughs of New York. So in Manhattan, Queens, and Brooklyn. And then they're really spread out, and we don't obviously publicize what the location are of any of these spaces. They're all safe for our young people. Um, and that's 200 beds for our young people.
Now, is that outside of New York or still in New York?
All in New York City.
Oh, in
And
New
then
York
what we
City.
do outside of New York is really advising and support and capacity building for orgs elsewhere.
How did you get connected with Al Forney? Obviously, you have a passion and a heart for this. What brought you to Al Forney to be able to help the LGBTQ youth?
I always knew that I wanted to work within the LGBTQ community, and I thought I wanted to do one-on-one case management with folks. And then I started to dip my toes into the development and communication space, and I realized how exciting it was and really thrilling to get to mobilize our community to respond to this issue. I've always worked in the nonprofit space, and while I hadn't worked at AFC at the Ali Forney Center, I was a fan and a donor. I would come to all of the galas and the events and I would cry and I would write a check and I would be totally inspired. And then during the pandemic, I really was excited about the prospect of working with an organization that the impact was so tangible that I would know how many kids are in a bed, how many meals are being served. I can go up to the floor above me and see the young people in the beauty salon doing their hair and their makeup who are just like getting a reprieve of the hardship of the streets was really the draw of for me for the agency and has been endlessly rewarding.
Wow. Well, we're very proud that you've joined them.
Thank you.
And you do have a heart of gold. I can tell in talking to you, you do. So how are you funded? Where do you get your funds from?
Yeah, it's a really good question and a really pressing one. Traditionally, the organization was primarily funded by government support. So, by city, state, and federal agencies that realize the work that we're doing is critical to the well-being of our community, our city, our state, and the country. Um, which is a really difficult way to run an organization. Government agencies are slow to respond, they're slow to
Yeah.
pay, and often cause like serious cash flow issues when you're waiting for those funds to arrive.
Yes.
So we've been looking to really grow the private funds that make this work happen so that we could also be more responsive to what the greatest need is. So we've been working on finding individuals who have the financial capacity by working with corporations who are able to support our work. And then we throw really fun parties that bring people together and share a bunch of queer joy while also raising critical funds for us to do this work.
Excellent. So I believe you say that 50% is government funds, close to 50% is private funds.
Exactly.
Okay. So if somebody wants to get in contact with Ali Forney, I know when I was looking for beneficiaries to support, I came across Ali Forney, and I was so taken back by the story. But a lot of people out there may not know who you are.
Sure.
How can we get more people familiar with your work?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. And when we were talking initially, I remember that I shared that like our greatest need is to spread the story of our young people. It's hard to hear about the incredible young people that we serve and not want to help them.
Yeah.
These are kids who have everything going for them, except for parents who are telling them there's something wrong with them, as opposed to loving them as they should. So I encourage folks to go to aliforneycenter.org to learn more about our work. And then we have a ton of really interesting campaigns that happen throughout the year that are truly so much fun and like help to spread this joy and impact. And I promise whatever you give to them, it will give back to you fivefold. Yeah, and because our program is so extensive, we're always looking for volunteers, everything from like a one-off to come help cook a meal for our young people or to paint one of the housing sites to more ongoing programming, like being a life coach that meets weekly with a young person to help provide guidance and support. And then we have those like fun events that I mentioned often rely on people to share their network and excitement. We have a big campaign now to raise money for our meals program. Each meal that we serve is around $2.50. So like we have a whole platform, it's called Serve, and it's serve.aliforneycenter.org that folks can sign up and spread the word that raises awareness and meals to help feed our youth.
And we never want to take our LGBTQ community for granted. We want to help them. And many of our listeners today are listening, I know, want to help as well too. What lesson you would like others to learn by Al Forney as a person and Al Forney Center as an organization? What are the things you want our listeners to take away as a real key for them?
The impact that you're able to have on someone's life, you will never truly understand. And seeing how Ali Forney has been able to inspire not an organization, but a movement that has for 25 years mobilized people and resources and saved incredible lives, that truly like we all have the ability to move mountains and have incredible impact on this world. So I encourage you to get involved, to volunteer, to donate, to pick up a phone to the Ali Forney Center or to any of the other incredible LGBTQ causes, because the reality is our exposed. The folks that are working against the LGBTQ community are very well funded and are coordinated. And now is the time for us to be coordinated and make sure that we are standing up for those amongst us who are the most vulnerable.
We have to have a voice.
Yes.
We have to have a voice. And a voice means that this is my voice, is my podcast and my book that I wrote, The Courage to Be Courageous. We have to have a voice, and then we have to act in harmony with our voice and do something about it. I want to share this incredible thought that Zach emailed me. Often I tell folks that the biggest issue we face as an issue is that we don't have a big enough platform to fill up the stories of our clients. It is hard to learn about the work of the Ali Forney Center and not want to get involved. So my hope is that the story of our work moves listeners to volunteer, to donate, to mobilize and advocate for our youth. It is our responsibility as an LGBT community to protect those of us who are the most vulnerable. Extremely well put. I'm going to have you repeat again the two ways that people can involve the Ali Forney.
Our website is aliforneycenter.org, and I'll spell that. It's ALIFORNEYCENTER.org. And that campaign that I talked about to raise money and awareness for our meals program is serve, SERVE, aliforneycenter.org.
Excellent. We appreciate that so much. It's such a privilege having you, Zach, on our show today. And I appreciate all the hard work that you're doing and what Ali Forney Center is doing as well. Thank you, Zach, and my best to you and my best to Ali Forney Center.
Awesome. Have a great night.
Take care, my friend.
Bye-bye.